Thank you for tuning in to the Calm Your Nervous System podcast, where you will learn to regulate your nervous system, not just calm it. I'm your host, Jenny Adams, and I'm a somatic coach who has recovered from debilitating ME and trauma. Alongside my guest experts, I'm here to share tips, stories, and debunk jargon, what is somatics anyway, about how you can regulate your nervous system so you don't have to live with chronic illness, burnout, or debilitating trauma for the rest of your life. A joyful life is possible. Calum, thank you for coming on the podcast. And I know since we've been working together, you have really been out living your best life. You've been, jet setting all over the world. I can't keep track of all the places you've been to, all the concerts, all the wins you've had, the out dating again, like going to the gym. You are the embodiment of living. And I'm really excited to have you on the podcast and just have a chat and share some of these wins and where you were and where you have got to as well. So I'd love to start. I'd love to start first of all. Take us back to where were you before you made that decision to start working with me? Where were you in life? What was going on?
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of people feel this way when they're asked, how did this all start? What were your symptoms? And I think the answer I would have given you before we started working together is actually quite different to the answer I give now. I think the answer that I would have given you 6 months ago, which is I think around the time I reached out to you, would have probably only started in around 2012. But now, knowing what I know, it goes back decades. So the way I answer that question now when people ask me is, as a child and in adolescence, I had chronic heartburn, IBS, chronic sinus infections, acid reflux, lots of really bizarre symptoms. I also needed a lot more sleep than other people. So whereas a lot of my friends could get 5-6 hours of sleep and be fully functional, I needed the 8, even at a really young age. And I just thought it was genetic. I started getting really bad insomnia in my early 20s, which then led into getting headaches if I didn't sleep well, which then led into migraine. And then even if I did sleep, chronic migraine, which at their worst, I was getting about 25 migraine days a month. I was put on dozens of different medications for the migraines, from antidepressants to anti-seizure medication to calcium channel blockers to Botox to nerve blocks to trying chiropractors, osteopaths, acupuncture, vagus nerve stimulators, all kinds of things, just sort of desperate to feel better. And throughout that period, I would have these bouts of fatigue, which I just saw as being related to the migraine. And then our dear friend COVID happened, and I was vaccinated, I got the booster, and I still got COVID 5 times. And every time I got a COVID infection, it was just like being knocked down time and time again, until by 2024, I ended up being bedbound for around a month and then housebound for about 9 months. And that is when I met you, and I was doing sort of some independent work on mind body, and then you and I had our weekly sessions, which was such a huge part of what got me, I guess, over the hill. It's weird to say because I don't like saying fully recovered, because I don't know if there's such thing as fully recovered, but it's given me the tools to, manage life, because that's what these symptoms are. They are a response to life happening at you and with you and through you.
And so for you often.
And for you.
Yeah. So if we think back to the time that you actually you took the steps and said, I need to change, something needs to change. You said you were housebound at the time. Were you still working and kind of struggling through? And what did life look like at that specific time?
Yeah, I'll get to that time, but I guess I should just preface with, I think earlier on in my journey with migraines specifically, I was, 23, junior at work. I didn't want anyone to know. So for the first year of my job, when I was after uni, I didn't tell people I had migraines. So I would sit in the toilets crying and using a vagus nerve stimulator and just popping tablets. As I got a bit older, I started to be more transparent, but it wasn't always met with, accommodations, because just sometimes employers can't give accommodations. And so, yeah, I was very much working. I have a very understanding boss who absolutely was working with me, not against me, which was a lovely, lovely feeling. I felt really supported. And I did end up taking about a month off of work. I went home to Canada. You can probably hear I have an accent. I grew up in Canada. I've been here for 13 years, but I just wanted to be with my mom. So I went home, did that for a month, came back, and then work were like, why don't you come back on 50%, see how you get on? But that's kind of all I could do. So I worked Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And outside of that, I was ordering most of my food shops. I wasn't socializing. I maybe had one friend over once a week to come hang out with me, to try and sort of give me a glimpse into what was happening in the real world. But it wasn't good. And then I don't think I really got that much better, but I was just getting really bored, if I'm honest. As someone with ADHD, I need stimulation. And there's only so much stimulation playing video games for 4 hours a day in your mid-30s can give you. So I went back to 80%, which initially did kind of kill me, but I told myself I could do it. And I think I only took maybe 2 or 3 sick days in the, I suppose, like 4 or 5 month period. I was doing 80% of work, which doesn't mean I wasn't having symptoms, doesn't mean I wasn't struggling, but I felt like work was something I could actually give myself to and feel that I was adding value somewhere, in the absence of feeling like I was able to add value to, friendships or community or just the world.
Yeah, and I mean, you've worked in the music industry for what, 12 years? Is it something you love doing?
Yeah, so I worked in artist management for 9 years, and I've worked in brand partnerships for 4. And yeah, so it is a fun job. It's one of those jobs where you don't wake up and think, oh God, I have to work. Like, yes, of course, there are times you don't love it, but the work I'm doing is generally exciting and fun, rather than sort of like there are definitely numbers involved, but you know what I mean. I'm not going to work and just looking at spreadsheets all day.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But then you join calls and you're not feeling well, but you don't want people to know, but you're not sure how to sort of approach it. And so you end up doing a lot of masking, which, you do to get through, but it doesn't feel good knowing that you're having to sort of put on this mask of everything's okay when everything is really not okay.
So what was it that changed in you then, that was going into, I love my work and this is bringing me some joy and some energy? And at what point was that line of, I can't just keep pushing and masking and going, I think I need some support, I need something?
I think it got to April, and I had just spent 5 months and more money than I will publicly say on this forum.
I mean, I've spoken to someone before that said they've spent 300 grand trying to get better. So.
Okay, I would say over the last 13 years, I'd say maybe 50 grand, and 90% of that is my parents helping me, which there's also some shame associated with that, being, at the big old age of 35 and having to email your mom saying, can you send me 200 quid for acupuncture? And, she would always say, this is your health, don't worry about it. But, you don't feel great about it. But yeah, I think I just reached this point of, I feel like I have tried everything. Like I was investigating mold toxicity, which I know is really helpful for a lot of people. It wasn't helping me. I was getting IVs and changing my diet and taking 17 supplements a morning, hemorrhaging money on those, and just feeling like is this doing anything? But then you run out of one supplement and you have a really bad day and you think, oh, so that one must be doing something. So I need to buy it again. And then it just like spirals into like a really bad place where you're reliant on things that aren't actually helping you. But what really changed was a phone call with my sister's friend. My sister had a friend who basically told me that she had suffered from 6 months of being bedbound with long COVID. And I do this because I think, as we know, long COVID means a lot of different things. It isn't a diagnosis. It's more just a cluster of symptoms. And they didn't really know what else to call it. But a lot of those symptoms I had predated the pandemic. So I guess she had chronic illness as well. And she was bedbound for 6 months, which is a lot longer than I was. And she was bedbound to the point where she couldn't hold her newborn son. She couldn't go to the toilet without help. She couldn't shower. So I was like, yeah, let's have a chat. Because my sister said, you really need to talk to my friend. And we had a chat. And she basically said, listen, like, suspend your disbelief. But what healed me is doing mind body work. And she sent me some resources and some books to read and some podcasts to listen to. And that was right around the time I'd found you. And I thought that me, speaking with you was just going to be something to support me through having irreversible symptoms, rather than something to support me through getting rid of my symptoms or getting rid of the chronic symptoms. Because human pain is very real, as we know. Will I have another migraine again? Absolutely. Will I have days where I feel tired? Yes. Will they be chronic? I hope not, because I feel like I have the tools now to avoid going down that path. But talking to someone I knew who had been through it and who had been worse off than me, it just, I don't know, like, it shifted something in me. I'd always been very resistant to the mind-body approach. I thought it was a little bit woo-woo. I thought it was, a money grab. I thought these were just charlatans coming in and trying to, rip people off. And so I kind of stayed away from it. And I sometimes think, man, if I'd come to this work 10, 12, 15 years ago, imagine the life I could have had. But I actually don't think I would have been ready for it. I think I needed to have all of these failures, with medications, all this trial and error to get to a point of, well, this is the only thing left. Let's try it. And lo and behold.
It's always the last thing you try, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been through such a similar journey myself. I think if I found some of this somatic mind-body stuff when I was as sick as I was, I would have dismissed it. And like, where's the tablet? Where's the pill? Where's the fix that will just make me better? I don't want to look at any of that stuff. Like, I don't have trauma. No, I'm working hard. I'm not burnt out. I'm not sick. I'm not stressed. And I look back now and I'm like, fucking hell, how was I surviving? And I was just about scraping through working full time.
Yeah.
As you said, going and hiding in the toilets. I'd be napping in there. I'd be meditating in there. I'd be crying. And like, the amount of stuff I've done in toilets that's not related to going to the toilet is insane. Because it's a quiet little place to just go and escape.
Yeah.
But what was it that changed your mind? Because I remember you even saying it, I think in our first couple of sessions, like, I'm just going to try this. I don't think it's going to work, but let's just give it a try. What made you step into that and go, I'm going to take the chance?
I think, like, to my point before, it was connecting with my sister's friend, who I've known since I was 17. And I know that she's not I feel like woo is such a strange, but I feel like she is someone who's like quite, practical, and she also told me she tried all the things. And then also when I met you and you told me your story, I was like, oh, Jenny has been through something very similar to me, and here she is on the other side of the worst of it. And so for me, I'm someone who I need like proof, I need evidence. And while now I know there actually is so much evidence, like there's so much brain science behind all of this. And I'll tell you a bit later about a recent appointment I had with the GI that made me so happy. But I feel like this type of work is now sort of slowly moving its way into Western medicine. I think COVID and long COVID have been catalysts for that. But yeah, I guess just having proof in a friend and in, you know, a coach who the first couple times we spoke, you just got it. I, in all my years of being ill, had very few people who had all of the same symptoms as me, like the bizarre, like, oh, I have chronic this, that, everything, everywhere, all at once. And so, yeah, I was like, you know what? If it worked for them, maybe it'll work for me. But I didn't think it was going to be the thing. I really
And
didn't.
and I just want to reiterate that point, because I think so many of us almost, we, especially if we're neurodivergent, we almost try and like outthink and outsmart, and we
Yes.
need to see that proof, we need to see the evidence,
Yes.
because we're not stupid. You know, if it was simple, we would have solved it years ago, right? But sometimes it is quite simple, and instead of chewing through all the books and understanding, because I think when we first spoke, you and you know, many other clients I've worked with, they are regurgitating probably more nervous system stuff than I might know sometimes. The studies and the authors, the books, you know, all of this knowledge. But we need to put that knowledge on, don't we?
Yeah.
Because we can't fix the body through just thinking about stuff. Yeah, I think that's just a really important point there that we need to address. We need some evidence.
It's also challenging because I have, like, since I met you, I guess, I have been introduced to friends of friends and siblings of friends and parents of friends, because if you follow me on social media, I'm like very active on Instagram. I like to think I have a quirky internet presence. I just post lots of funny things and like lots of videos of my cat and pop stars and drag queens and what have you. But I think there was like a sad undertone to a lot of my posts over the last couple of years, where I use dark humor rather than centering myself as a victim. I would use dark humor, but for people who knew me really well, they could see this guy is not doing very well. And all of a sudden my tune kind of changed, and I went from posting memes about chronic illness to going to concerts and going on airplanes, leaving the country, and being at bars and being in parks. And I think I had a few people reach out being like, hey, I've been following your journey, really happy for you, but can you help my mom, or can you help my sister? And so I've literally had phone calls. I've like pretended to be you on phone calls, like pro bono. And I'm like, I'm not qualified, but I kind of am qualified on a human level. And I've had people like crying on the phone to me, being like, I feel like I have some hope now, just from talking to me, which is exactly what happened when I spoke to my sister's friend. And so I'm like, if I can be that person for someone else and pay it forward, do I see myself having a career in health coaching? Probably not. Should I? Maybe. But if I can just do it for free for people who are important to others who are important to me, then I'm happy to give back. But there is always this disbelief, this oh, that's what helped you. Okay, no, where's the tablet? Like, where's the ADHD medication, the SSRI, the beta blocker, the low dose naltrexone? That was one I didn't mention. Great for some people, was not great for me.
Yeah, but my ADHD became too much of a barrier before it could get even prescribed when I was ill. When I was like, there's too many forms to fill out, I can't even try that one. It's too much of a struggle to even get there. But I think that's really important what you said as well, with it's the people that are close to you, because, you know, we can go on and do all the marketing things, and like I can scream from the rooftops about my journey on the internet. But when it's someone that you know, or it's a friend of a friend, or, you know, they're in your world, they're in your circle, and you hear the story, it lands so much deeper than just a random person on the internet that is telling a story that's like, well, really? Were you really in a wheelchair? Did you just like stage a picture? Like,
Is
were
that
you that
AI?
bad? Yeah, yeah. So, I think that's a really important point to make, that when you can see those people and the ripple effect of when you as one person have changed your life in the way you have, how many others that is touching through
Yes.
what they're seeing. And even though those that might be following you on Instagram that haven't contacted you might just be seeing things and being like, oh wow, okay, there's something different here. I'm loving this.
Yeah, like I think I told you about this. I had a girl that I went to primary school with, who I hadn't seen in. So actually, she was in London this past weekend. She's a filmmaker, and she was premiering her film for the first time outside of Canada, and we hung out for the first time in 22 years.
Wow.
But she has gone through like a lot of health stuff in her life, and she was just saying, like, I've been following your journey, and it's been remarkable to watch. And we had some really incredible chats. And I told her about the work that I've done with you and some of the other things I've read. And it's like, sometimes when you're explaining it, I can understand why people would think, oh, this is like a cult. But I'm like, literally, I was on my couch for a year, and I'm sitting in a park with you right now, and I'm having a glass of wine. Like, trust me, you don't have to spend any money either. Like, yes, of course, if you want to get a coach or you want to buy a book, but there are so many resources out there that are completely free because people have been through it, and like, you can get better. And if you go on, I think we've spoken about this, when I first got migraines and then into my chronic fatigue, ME, long COVID era, I was on every Facebook group, every Reddit or subreddit rather. And it's some positivity, but a lot of negativity and a lot of doom and a lot of, you can't get better. Anyone that's getting better is lying to you. They don't actually have the condition that they say they have. Or anyone who goes to a health coach or someone who purports to be able to, help cure chronic pain or chronic fatigue, they're lying to you. They're just taking your money and profiting off of your illness. And I'm sure that exists, but that there are also some really brilliant people in this field who just want to help others. And yeah, they need to make a living. Unfortunately, we live in a capitalist society, but if them making a living is giving you your life back.
Yeah. And I wish I had someone like myself when I was so sick, because I was taking huge pay cuts. Like you said, it's all the supplements, it's paying for the chiropractor and like all of the specialists that we are quite happy to pay if we can. And like you said, there are free resources out there. Like, we're recording a podcast. If you're listening to this, you are paying nothing to listen to this right now. So essentially, you, Callum, because you have been a paying client, you are helping me produce this podcast that I have to pay for to put out there. So,
So
it's a full circle.
It's the circle of trauma. Like,
yeah. And the finance part of it is, do you want to get this done a bit quicker? Do you want the premium support? If you want that, it's there. If you would rather do it, a slightly jumbled, harder, longer way, at the end of the day, what do you value? Are you happy to just plod along? And I've spoken to some people that they've said, I want to get better, but actually, I don't want my life to change that much. I'm on my benefits. I have my life in bed. I don't have any support. They take my carers away from me. I don't know what I'd do if I got better. So I'm actually just going to stay sick.
And that is the tough thing. I think when you are sick for a long time, it does unfortunately become your personality. And I've been there 100%. I have, while on my social media, I try not to center myself as a victim. I felt like a victim. I'm like, what? Like, what is this? What is this life? What have I done to deserve this? And yeah, I think the difference is I had such a vibrant life before, and I was so determined to get back there. I didn't think I ever would. And I've said that to a few people. I really did not think I'd be living the life that I'm living today, that I've been living for the last 4-ish months. I also didn't expect it to happen so quickly, which I don't want to give anyone the wrong idea that everyone gets better in 4 months. You can't put timelines on it. It's different for everyone. I think I had a really good canvas for doing this work because of all the other things I tried and because of my understanding of the science, and maybe I was lucky. But don't think that if you're not getting better in a month, 2 months, 4 months, it's because there's something wrong with you or that it's not working. Just keep going. And look, if one way of doing mind body work doesn't feel right for you, try another. There are so many different approaches. And if you can't afford, one program, like there are free resources, or reach out to a coach and say, hey, like, can we do a payment plan? Like people just want to help you. And the good people will be open to having those conversations with you.
Yeah. And is it a point you made there that you're living like you used to, or you've got your old life back? And would you say that you are living your old life, or has something changed? Are you living differently now that you've learned some stuff?
Yes, I am living differently. I am happier than I was. I'm less reactive to, stress, sort of any inputs that used to sort of set me off the edge. Does it happen on occasion? 100%. I had a screaming match with my cat half an hour before we started speaking. Because I was trying to get ready for this, and she just wouldn't stop meowing, and I was like, I need you to stop. But in her defense, they're testing the fire alarms in my building right now, and they've been going off all day, and she's just not happy. So fair play. Her nervous system is not regulated today, so I'm just in the crossfires of that. But yeah, no, like even when someone says something that really upsets me, I would fight back. I would cut deep. It was just instinct to defend myself and to go as hard and as low as I could to make a point. Whereas now I don't know. I just have this ability to, I suppose, like get myself out of that fight or flight and then respond in a more centered and, I don't know, calm way. One thing that I'm still working on is, now that I'm able-bodied again, I'm overcommitting myself in a way that I did before, because it's really hard to say no when you know that you can say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to catch up with everyone that you weren't really able to be present for during your sick years. But like my friends who've actually only known me in the last 4 or 5 years are like, yo, you need to slow down, because why do you have dinner Monday, concerts Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? You're flying to France for 24 hours to go to a drag show, and then you're going to a brunch, and then you're going on a date, and then you're meeting us for another concert. Like, that's actually not sustainable for anyone. So I'm hoping in Q4, well, we're already in Q4, aren't we? I'm hoping in the last 2 months of Q4 to try and just slow down a bit and have a few more nights in where I'm cooking and hanging out with the cat and just having some me time, because I have been burning the candle at both ends a little bit, and I'm having like a few little symptoms here and there, which I'm able to sort of deal with. They're not chronic, but my body is saying, hey, maybe just take a breather.
And are you listening to those symptoms now as just little like messages of like, maybe you need to slow down, as opposed to, oh my God, here's this new big toxic thing and there's a massive panic that comes with it? Are you seeing that more as just like, this is just a message, and actually
You're right.
I'm overdoing it, and
True. Yeah.
maybe it's trying to tell me something.
For sure. But it's so amazing not to catastrophize and not to think, oh God, like I have a little, like today I had like I have a bit of pain in my left arm, which I always used to get, like arm, neck, just before I got like a blowout migraine. I haven't had a blowout migraine in 5 months. I've had 2 other days where I had this, which is kind of like the pre-pain, but instead of being like, oh my God, like I'm not gonna be able to talk to Jenny this afternoon. I can't work. I have to cancel. I'm flying. I'm going on holiday tomorrow. I have to cancel my holiday. It's like, no, like I've been really busy and I've been overdoing it a little bit. So yeah, of course.
So the symptom has been the same, but your response and your reaction to it has changed, and because of that, it's not turned into a full-on massive migraine. You've
no, and
caused it.
it's bizarre because so this has happened twice before. I think both were in maybe July or August, and I remember I told a couple of friends, oh, like I have a little bit of pain in my arm and in my neck, but I'm gonna meditate and make myself a nice dinner and watch like a comfort film. And then 3 hours later, one of them checked in and I was like, yeah, I think I turned the migraine off.
Nice.
Which makes you kind of feel like quite powerful.
Yes. And this is the thing, when we hear, oh, you've created this, or it's all in your head, or, this has happened because of trauma and the experiences you've been through, it can feel so disempowering. But equally, we can switch that around and go, well, if I did have some part to play in this, which is not my fault, this is all reactions and survival mechanisms, then maybe I've got the power to change this and not have the migraines, not have the exhaustion, and listen to those symptoms, whatever your body's telling you, and then live that life of ease and following the intuition and, finding a bit more balance as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as well that you're saying at the moment, you're burning the candle at both ends a little bit. And you've been, how many places have you traveled in the last few months?
Jenny follows
everywhere.
me on Instagram. So a few, a few. Like obviously
and I travel a lot. So
you do. You do.
Yeah. I was in Barcelona last weekend and all over Europe. So planning Australia at the moment. So
amazing.
Yeah. We travel a lot.
But it's not, how nice is it to be able to say yes?
Yes.
To travel. And the holiday I'm going on tomorrow is a solo trip. And I told you before this call, I'm going to Montenegro, and it was supposed to be a 30-degree beach holiday, but there's a cold front moving into Central Europe. So it's going to be 11, 12, 13 degrees and raining for the first couple of days. So I'm just going to take it easy.
Yeah.
And even though like I sometimes take it easy in my flat in London, there's always something. I always end up going to meet someone for a drink, or someone comes over, or I'm looking after the cat. This is going to be full disconnect, sitting in my cold little hotel room.
Yeah. And sometimes just having that change in environment, being somewhere different and having nothing to do, especially if we have ADHD as well, it's just that signal to our brain to just, I don't need to be hustling and fighting and doing so much.
Yes.
And this is just reminding me of when I think it was a year after I kind of went through my recovery, and I went to Ibiza for a week on my own, partying, living my best life. And we were in Ibiza last week. It was the fourth time I've been there. I've been there twice now with my husband.
Good.
And we went to, we love Ibiza. Not so much for partying now, just it's a wonderful place. And we're on the beach outside Ushuaia, which was where I remember being. I think I went to see Calvin Harris, like
Classic.
2019, of course.
Love.
I was 28 or something, had missed all my teens, all my 20s of partying. And I'm like, I'm going to Ibiza, partying. Way!
This is my time. This is my time.
Yeah, because when we get the energy back, especially when we have ADHD, we're like, I'm going to go and do all the things, everything. And it, we can tip that balance sometimes of like having done nothing for so long, and then we're going to go do all the things, that we then end up doing too much. And it can take a little bit of time to just find that, where is that balance that actually feels good? It doesn't feel like you're missing out on life, but you're still living without having to sacrifice yourself and your life. And I had this moment last week on the beach in Ibiza, just reflecting when I was there in 2019, someone came up to me and I was sitting on the bench and I just sat down for a moment to have a breather. And they came up to me and said, "Why aren't you up dancing and partying?" And I was just sitting there in absolute awe saying, "I was in a wheelchair a year ago and I'm here. Like, I'm just sitting down because I need a break for a minute, but I'll be back out there. But in order to get back out there, I'm going to sit down on this bench for 10 minutes and just have
100%.
And you know, when people are drunk and they hear these stories, they were like, "She was in a wheelchair a year ago. Oh my God, look at this girl, buy her a drink." And it was just one of those moments like, oh my God. And I was back at that same beach last week reflecting on how much I've changed even since then. And we can have these moments where, yeah, we go and live, we go and enjoy life and realise what we've learned and how much we can now do and what's shifted in us as well.
I first of all, that's so amazing. I love that because I've had similar moments, and I had one the other night at the Lady Gaga concert.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was on antidepressants as a migraine preventative for 12 years, and I've been fully off antidepressants. This is news to you, for a week. I finished my taper, and it means I can cry again. But happy crying. Yeah. And so Gaga came on, and I've seen the woman perform 8 times in the last 16 years. But she was really important to me and my best friends at uni, because that's the age I was when it all came out, like the original, like Just Dance, Poker Face, Bad Romance, all that lovely music. And I was just thinking about them and thinking about how special, it is that I'm able to see this artist perform who we all loved and who sort of like raised us in a way. But then I was also thinking about the last time she came here on tour, which is in 2022, and how I went to go see her twice then, even though I probably shouldn't have. And the second show I had a migraine. And I remember being like, ugh, like I'm so happy to be here, but I'm in so much pain and discomfort. This is horrible. And I was just sitting there being like, I am dancing my ass off right now. I just basically did a 2-hour like dance cardio workout at the O2 in London, like to one of my favorite artists of all time with one of my best friends. Like it was unbelievable. And I just burst out crying. And my friend who I was with was like, "I've never seen you cry."
Oh,
I'm
really?
like, well, I've never not been medicated in our friendship. So here I am.
Welcome to crying at everything.
I have a soul after all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely relate to that. And just sort of that. like lots of little moments like that where you'll just be out having dinner with someone and you're like what? I was saying no to, like, people just didn't even invite me to dinner anymore at a certain point because I wasn't going to show up, and they knew that I was going to feel guilty saying no. So, but now it's like, yeah, man, like I'm available. Actually, I'm not available. I'm overcommitted for the month of October, but I'm available.
You have choice now.
Exactly.
And this is something that I'd love to reflect to you that I have noticed in your journey this year, is that there's this confidence in you now that you seem to have more faith in who you are and your authenticity and trusting in your voice, and you're not shrinking, you are boldly standing up as you. And I would just love to hear a little bit more if you've noticed that in yourself and what that's led to in life.
Yeah, I think something that I've learned in doing this work is that a lot of people who go through what you and I went through are people pleasers. We just have tendencies to not want to let people down, even if it means putting ourselves in uncomfortable positions or situations in which like we don't feel good, or doing things we don't really want to do, but we're doing them because we don't want to let people down. But in the same sort of situation, we're letting ourselves down. And I, without sort of going into too many details, I realized that I had a few friendships like that. And I think going through what I went through, I realized who my amazing friends were. And I also realized that there were people in my life where we were just like maybe operating on different frequencies, and maybe they meant well, but the way it was being sort of received by me was actually just making me feel worse about myself, worse about my illness, reinforcing all of the insecurities that I had as a result of being a chronically ill person. And I now feel just a lot more confident in my boundary setting, and equally in, I guess, things that are like quirky or different about me, whereas before I saw them as disadvantages. I'm now kind of like, these are my superpowers. And I mean, one of those things, not to get into it too much, but I've been openly gay since I was 14 years old, and I've never really felt part of one specific aspect of the gay community. And it used to really bother me because I'm very openly queer and, happy to talk about it at length. And there are things that I do. I love drag, and I like going to a gay bar now and then, but my whole life doesn't revolve around, I guess, like the gay scene and some of the sort of events and activities and like subcultures that are associated with it. And I felt really, I felt like I wasn't worthy of it. I felt like I wasn't, the right body type or the right personality type, or, because I was sick, I would never be able to subscribe to that lifestyle. But now that I feel a bit better, I'm like, that's actually not what I want to do with my time. And if that's what you like doing, that is amazing. But I have my own life, I have my own interests, and I now feel really confident in, I think I used to blame not wanting to do those things on my health, but now that I have more of my health and I still don't want to do those things, I'm like, that's cool. I don't know if I explain that in like a succinct and coherent way, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. That what I'm hearing is you don't need an excuse. You can just say, I don't want to do something.
Yes.
And that's enough. And
Yeah.
I think it is really important to also, spread this message and hear it, because so many of us and the clients I work with feel othered, whether it's trauma, whether it's our sexual orientation, whether it's our neurodiversity. Something makes us go through life not quite feeling like we fit in, or everyone wants us to be in this box, and we're like, no. And then
I'm somewhere over here.
but is that allowed?
I'm adjacent to the box, but I'm not in it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So what is it in you that has that worthiness, that voice has been allowed to say, I'm not getting in the box, and I'm good over here. I'm doing things my way. I don't need to feel less than or othered because I'm maybe different in some way.
I think just realizing what I actually do bring to other people's lives, seeing the number of friends that stood by me even when I was at my absolute worst, it just kind of gave me a bit of a wake-up call to, no, like you are a good person. You're not a perfect person. I make mistakes all the time, but I'm an important person to a lot of people. And the other thing when you're sick is, dating is a nightmare. So I've been single for the better part of a decade, but I don't really care anymore. If I meet someone, great, but I have so many wonderful people in my life who all fulfill like different, I don't know, like interest-based needs, like psychological needs, comical needs. Like I have someone for everything, and they all made me feel really special when I felt really shitty. And I didn't used to believe it, but I believe it now. And I don't need all these sort of extra things to tell me that I am valid and worthy of respect and of love and of friendship. But I also think that I hold myself more accountable now than I did before. And that's still something I'm working on. But maybe that's chapter 2.
And this is also making me think about the importance of community and being around others where you can be yourself, you can be authentic, you can show up being messy sometimes and have that space to just be you, that you don't need to put the mask on, you don't need to pretend, you don't need to stay in the box.
Agreed.
And I think one final question I would love to ask is, if there's one thing that you could sum up this year that has changed for you, whether it's a belief, a behaviour, anything, what would that be?
I think the thing that I would say has changed the most is this belief that my body was working against me. I used to fall into that pattern of, why are you doing this to me? Like, what? Like, my body is broken. My body is, like my saboteur. Like my body is, there is something so severely wrong with me. And now I understand my body was just trying to protect me, and it was sending me warning signs. And the problem is I was trying to solve for the warning signs, i.e. the symptoms, rather than for what it was warning me about, which is the trauma, the repressed emotions, the personality traits that ultimately are not serving me. And once I had that shift in belief, everything else just started to make sense and to flow. And again, still a work in progress, but man, am I so much further along on this journey than I ever thought I could be.
And it is always a work in progress.
Yeah.
I teach this work, I embody this work, I am still doing this work.
You have to.
It's a lifetime thing, and it doesn't mean that means life has to be messy and constantly doing the work. It's an exploration, it's something we can get curious about. And I just love what you've said there about almost like the body isn't the thing holding you back, the barrier, the thing stopping you from doing all the things you want to do, but it's actually the container that helps you to get to the things that you want to do when you actually tune in and work with it and you listen. Because then you can, I mean, how quickly, I think you said about 2.5 months, your change is insane.
It was, yeah, I think it was like, I remember I was like dipping my toe in the waters of like going out and doing things and having a lot of symptoms. But you'd said to me, don't be surprised if when you start increasing activity, you see an increase in symptoms. So even though I had symptoms, I remember I went to a friend's birthday in the Cotswolds. I think that was end of May. And I had symptoms. And I left a little bit earlier than everyone else, but I was still happy that I went. And I was like, this is what I need to do to get to where I want to be. And then it just started getting easier and easier. And then one day I was out doing something social and I realized I feel fine right now. And then it's magic, but it's actually not magic. It's just you. It's like the power of your own mind, your own nervous system. So yeah.
Yeah, the wonder of what our nervous system can do, and the magic and the power we actually have within us when we learn to tune in and listen to it. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your story, and also for taking that step to come and work with me and take the chance, because like you said, this might not work, but it might.
It might.
It might. So go and pack for your holiday. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you being here. And hopefully if anyone's been listening and has been inspired, do you want to share where they might want to follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Calum Mew, Calum with one L. Jenny, will you put it up on the screen?
Yep, we'll put it on the screen, we'll put it in the bio. And you are creating your own podcast very soon?
Yeah, so my friend and I, she and I have both worked in the music industry for over a decade and are also huge proponents of just mental health and, physical health, just wellness in general. So we're putting together a little podcast that kind of blends the two. It's early days, but keep an eye out.
Yeah,
keep an ear
amazing.
out even.
Yeah, well, send me the link when you've got it and we'll share it. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Calm Your Nervous System. I hope you found the conversation as interesting as I did. If you would like to start healing your nervous system, I have a free energy diary available just for podcast listeners, which will really help you see your blind spots about how you're spending your time and your energy. Find it at jennyadamscoach.co.uk/podcast. Find out more about me and somatic coaching in the show notes below. See you next time.